Welcome to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal, where our goal is to change the way you practice dentistry by helping you achieve clinical, financial, and personal balance. Now, here's your host, T-Bone.
Another week, another episode. We are here at Studio 3D. I am joined, of course, with Meredith, but we also have a guest today. And before we get to our guest, I think it's going to be a phenomenal interview. We're going to talk to a young dentist who is doing phenomenal things in a very unique environment that I think there's so much to learn about and to take from this. So don't head anywhere. We're going to talk to our guest here in a moment. But before we do, let's turn it over to Meredith and see what in the world is going on in 3D.
Well, before we get started on that, I do have a review,
What?
which is
We
good
got another
news.
review? Sweet.
People are listening because we've been talking about reviews. We've gotten quite a few lately. So this one says, I've been a long-time listener, so I'm sorry it's taken so long for the review.
Yeah, thank you.
You were my first dental podcast and best in class.
I was the first. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like being someone's first.
Congrats on the 200th episode. You've done a fantastic job in involving this product. Keep keeping it real.
Well, I don't
know if that you know any difference.
Well, my wife tries to tame me. Like, I don't know if you were here yesterday when she tried to do that for me. But
yes.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, listen, 3D Dentist is still running. You got your online programs. We got programs coming in. Listen, we are all ready for 2020 to be over and get to 2021. But it is not a lost year. It is the year, and I'm telling you, September, October, November is going to be a time to really get things implemented in your office. I look back during our shutdown, and I wish there's some things I had got done and I had focused on, and you will have that same regret if you don't do some things for September, October, November in terms of getting things implemented into your practice.
Yes, and in September, we are going to be releasing 2021 dates. I've gotten a lot of emails about that. Yeah, I will be.
Okay,
yeah.
I was like, I just show up, go wherever they tell me to go. So listen, this week we have Dr. Joc Jernigan. Do we got a little logo for him? Oh, we got
there he is.
That guy, dude.
Cheesing hard.
Dude, you still have, you've lost a little bit of hair?
I don't know. I can't say that. I won't concede that
Not yet.
But,
he's hanging on to it.
Possible.
He's not quite like you are.
You're right. 2020's been a long 8 months. I might have lost a few strands there, but
I've lost a few more strands.
Yeah.
Well, Joc is a local dentist in the sense that he lives here in Raleigh, grew up here in Raleigh. His practice is in Rocky Mount, which is about an hour away.
Yeah, 50 minutes on 64 nonstop. So.
And so I'm going to have Joc talk about himself, but I've always said this, my dad has always told me this, that if you want to be successful with the least number of headaches, different types of headaches, but least number of headaches from an economic sense, you want to move 45 to 60 minutes outside of a major metro area and you will do phenomenal. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But let me turn it over to Joc. And Joc, give us a little story about who you are, where you're from, all of that stuff.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We couldn't get anybody else. So.
I figured that was the case. It was a last ditch,
And we finally wanted somebody with a social media presence. Chuck came on and he has zero.
Well, Chuck's fantastic. I was going to talk about Chuck a little bit. But Joc Jernigan. I'm from Raleigh, grew up here. Was born here. I love Raleigh. It's hard to beat the triangle. It's been crazy to watch it grow as it has. I mean, Wade Avenue, you used to be able to zoom down in 2 seconds. Now, if you're there after 3:30, it's going to take you 10 minutes. But it's been cool to see. I went to UNC for both undergrad and dental school.
What year did you graduate?
When people ask me that, I'd be at like a restaurant or bar, and someone would be like, "Yeah, I graduated in 2009." They were talking about high school, and I'm like, "Me too," or something. It's like, no. So 2009 undergrad, dental school, depressing. 2013, so I went right in, and
Why is that depressing?
Because it's been 7 years. I don't feel like
you haven't accomplished enough in 7 years, have you?
I don't know.
It's flying by.
It feels stagnant sometimes, which is something I want to talk about. But and kept cruising through the past 7 years.
Did you always want to be a dentist? Oh, so anyway, let's so a little bit of background. Joc's dad is a dentist.
He is, yeah. He
Okay.
graduated in '81 from UNC.
Dude, people were alive back then?
They were. Hard to believe, producing, through those years, people like me, which is questionable. But and
Your whole generation is screwing it up for all of
We're
us.
doing okay, all right?
I like to think I'm a little past that. But
You're my brother's age, so yeah.
So he's been in dentistry for over 30 years now. Growing up, he never pushed me. It's me and three boys, 2 brothers. I'm the middle. Got a huge complex of middle child syndrome.
Me too. I'm middle child
Yeah.
too.
He never really pushed any of us towards dentistry. Everyone asks that, like, did your dad push you towards dentistry? He didn't. He never really talked about it.
Well, I think part of that may have been that you guys lived in one city and your practice was a solid 45, 50 minutes away. So it's not like you're like me where I'm like, oh, I got to go do something. Let's go on the way to the McDonald's,
on the way, yeah.
Taco Bell.
Let's stop by the office.
Actually, yeah, it's more like on the way to Goodberry's.
And so he never talked about it. But I think subconsciously or consciously, I noticed sort of, we were able to have all this time with him. He did a bunch of different ventures in those, those growing years, but he came back to practicing dentistry, and I played summer baseball. Okay. And so a lot of that involved while everyone else was at the beach or something, me and Dad would be in Raleigh, and I'd go to work with him. And I'd get to see some of the incredible stuff he did, even like as a middle school age kid. And it sort of, I guess rubbed off on me. And as I got, deciding what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go to college, I was thinking strong about architecture. I love drawing. Took a lot of CAD CAM classes in undergrad.
Back when they used gophers or running the computers?
That is correct. I don't know if we even had computers. CAD CAM was just a thought, but yeah. And so I decided I really wanted to go to UNC. I don't know, I probably wanted to get out of Raleigh and not go to state. And so I went to UNC.
I mean, UNC is only 20 minutes down the road, just so you know.
Hey, I've realized that. I've been in the triangle my entire life.
Have you gone anywhere in your life?
I haven't. I don't think I've traveled outside of, other than Rocky Mount, Wake County.
Okay.
So hopefully to get out. But did that. When I got to UNC, I started thinking about it. Started thinking about, you have to make that decision sort of early if you're going to go into dental or med school and start getting things lined up. And I was thinking about, I was like, I think I do want to look into doing dentistry. My older brother initially wanted to do that, but he changed paths and went the medicine route.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Watching him on
He's
call.
regretting it now, isn't he?
He's an orthopedic surgeon, and watching him have to go on call and stuff, it does not make me regret my decision. But I pulled the trigger without any pressure from my dad, and proceeded from there.
All right, so we graduated dental school in 2013. Your dad's practicing in Rocky Mount. He has a unique practice, probably not what most of us would ever want to do.
Yep.
So talk to us about that.
So, it's a niche practice. I don't know. It's getting popular these days. Dentures are the hot thing, but it was a practice.
I don't know who you're talking to. Maybe
in Nash County, it is a hot thing.
In your circle, it's a hot thing.
But it was a practice that was solely on-site lab. They did a ton of it's a population that you don't learn about in dental school.
Right.
That's pretty prevalent out there. That extensive edentulation and restoring that with traditional removable.
Or soon to be a dentulous.
Yeah, or partial, like extensive partial edentulation, and using traditional removable methods to treat that. And
does that include partials and dentures, or are you guys
both.
only dentures?
Well, RPDs. We don't do any fixed bridges or anything.
Sure,
but all removable stuff, traditional on-site lab. And it's such a rewarding practice that you don't even realize. I mean, you're changing a lot of their lives as much as they could be changed. But I think there's a stigma with dentures to an extent, which we can talk about.
Yeah, dude, it's your podcast today, man.
But
I grew up watching my dad make dentures.
Yeah.
He was a dentist in India, and then when he came here, he never became a dentist. But he was in India. They did, like Rocky Mount, they did lots of dentures. So he learned how to make dentures. He got a job as a denture technician in Baltimore when we lived there, and then he brought that here when we bought our motel, and to make extra money, that's what he did for a few dentists. So I watched my dad growing up making dentures, and he always talked about how awesome it was and how grateful the people were. And then I went into dental school, and the denture was not so fun to make.
You're like,
of steps.
Never mind.
And then I got to practice, and the patients weren't so grateful. And so I said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Well, I can definitely understand that. If we did dentures in the traditional sense you're taught in dental school, I probably would hate it as well. But
so what's different?
The system, the way you take bites. People can talk down on a same-day denture, but we consistently make a phenomenal same-day denture with a consistent bite, and it works. You eliminate a lot of the steps, which I think's been a big, especially as we're moving into producing digital dentures. How do we eliminate steps and make it predictable? But it's a predictable system that produces wonderful results, and a lot of that is just experience and having a great lab, which we thankfully have.
So in dental school, did your fellow students look down on you and your dad? Or I don't want to say look down on, that's not what I mean, but did they say, why would you want to go, number one, why do you want to go to Rocky Mount? And number two, why do you want to go into a denture practice? Or were we just so stupid coming out of dental school that we didn't know any better?
I don't know I ever really talked about it other than my friends, and they sort of understood that's a good practice.
Okay.
And they sort of knew at that time what my goal was.
Okay.
Like when I first started dental school, it was like, okay, I know where I'm going and what I want to bring to it.
Okay.
And, we'll
be
get
more
there.
specific. Okay, we'll get there. Perfect.
Dental implants.
Okay.
And I was like, I see where I'm going, and I knew before I even started dental school I wanted to do implants. But the only person who ever really talked down about dentures and that type of practice was certain faculty who would come in and be like, this isn't and so we won't.
Prosthodontist, basically.
Yeah. But I have all the respect in the world for prosthodontists.
So you guys were pouring acrylic, or you guys were pressing or packing same
Both.
day? Both?
Both.
Okay.
If it's packed, that's not a same day.
That's not the same day, yeah. I remember growing up, our kitchen was full of the boiling pot, and we used to pack the acrylic.
Yeah.
I used to love the smell of it.
Yeah.
And when the acrylic kind of came out, I loved that.
I grew up when I would go there and go into the lab, and that smell is so unique.
I think I lived most of my high school life high.
I believe
on
that.
acrylic.
I was probably playing a lot of those baseball games in middle school high, but and so again, before dental school, my dad even mentioned what are these dental implants, and I started looking into them. These are fascinating.
What made him never get into that?
He probably just at a point was like, I'm good. I'm gonna keep cruising. But he always encouraged me, and I immediately loved him. I did research before dental school with a phenomenal prosthodontist at UNC, Sampot Ben-Charit, and he's been a phenomenal mentor since, both with dental implants, because he was early on heavy into them, and I learned a lot from him. But also digital dentistry. He's keen into. He's now at VCU. Shout out to Sampot. He's developed an incredible digital program up there for the undergrad students, not just the specialty residencies.
How is digital dentures changing denturism?
It's probably about to explode. It hadn't gone far, but once
I don't want to get left behind.
Well, exactly. Well, I don't want to get left behind. That's
But you're ahead of the curve, I think.
Well, we're not doing any removable.
We're not.
Yeah.
They are.
No, I get. But my point is okay. So let's. Okay, so I've always. I don't want to say I've talked down removable, but I've always been clear that it doesn't make money in my practice, and it doesn't make.
Everything about that's true. There's certain things, removable is one of them. I hate Medicaid can be that way for people.
Sure.
If it doesn't fit into your practice.
The richest dentists I know do Medicaid.
Are they actually doing the dentistry?
No, they don't.
Yeah, that's so. It has
smart ones.
It has to fit, and dentures. They have to. They're for most practices. They're not efficient. They're just a headache. And
so how? Okay, so what I want to get to. I know there's some other things you want to talk about, but now I'm going to be selfish for a second here. Okay. I've always talked about how I don't do dentures and how I don't want to do dentures. But if I look at my career path, anytime a product or procedure has been embraced by technology, it has drastically changed how that product is implemented. Let's look at orthodontics. When it was bracket and wires and hand bending, no chance, no desire.
Correct, yeah.
As soon as we went to straight wire orthodontics with 6-month Power Proc, 6-month Smiles, all those products, then I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then as soon as plastic came around, then I was like, well, anybody can be an adult orthodontics.
Yeah.
You know, and same with CAD CAM for crowns. You know, it's made all of that. Same with digital for sleep, digital for implants is unbelievable. So I don't want to miss out, or I don't want to be closed-minded about dentures now that we have a truly, you know, a digital dentistry is kind of technology is coming into that. So I want you to talk to me about how it's changing things.
That's currently what I was going to talk. That's my project now, is trying to find a system, because that's going to make sense. A lot of the headaches that you experience in most general dentists with dentures is, if you have to fix something, it's going to take forever. It's a headache.
We got to send it back.
It's an
Correct.
extra, 2 extra appointments.
And for me,
Most of us won't even move teeth.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I don't do that myself. Having that on-site lab 30 feet away, where I can like take it or bring them out and like show them, and they can go fix it right then, it changes everything. Not everything. That's one of the big advantages, is having it right there to make those changes without it being a huge headache, without you having to tell the patient, come back in 2 weeks, we can retry this in. We can, and repairs we're able to do same day, whereas, you know, you go to a traditional practice, they got to send it off.
We should send out denture patients over there.
I know.
Hey, send them
We
on,
have a
man.
lot from the courses we're just doing all the extractions on. I was actually thinking that.
Yeah. So that eliminates a lot of the headaches, that on top of having the system of bites and stuff we take. But anyway, so with regards to the digital denture, I've gone to the IDT symposiums the past 2 years, Phoenix and Atlanta this past year. When I went to Phoenix, I was like, we're 5-10 years out from digital dentures.
Yeah. Which means 1 or 2.
We are there.
Yeah.
You just have to find the right system. For us,
It's still the bite,
the bite is there.
and the reline impression is
Correct.
still not digital yet.
They're getting there. There are also people like Michael Scherer, people who are really pushing the limits on. And I'm sure you have a prime scan.
Yeah, of course.
They're
so
claiming,
doing a double-sided technique on the existing dentures.
and they're claiming that also the soft tissue edentulous impressions are pretty impeccable on them.
Well, I always say that it's a great preliminary impression that has border molding in it, and then basically you can get a try-in that you're ready to
And then really-
do reline.
correct.
Which is what I'm doing on some of my hybrid cases that are edentulous. I got to set them up to get to that point.
Yeah, and so those are a lot of the limitations. Now, for us, it has to make sense for us to even start to switch to digital denture. It has to be economical. Has to
Like, how many dentures does, if you don't mind sharing, like how many? What when you say you guys are busy, man, how many dentures are we doing?
So COVID has switched our way of doing things. We used to do a lot of walk-in, same-day stuff, which would really change your day-to-day. Some days would be just nuts crazy. Other days, not so crazy.
Can you imagine people walking in on top of what we are?
Yeah.
My divas would never handle such a thing.
Well, and I mean, I'm amazed by our staff, the way they would handle it. Like,
Your
some
team.
days we would just probably have 20 patients waiting at the door, like 4 full arch, full mouth.
So you guys compete with Affordable?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
for
so
sure.
that's your number one competitor.
No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're the big behemoth.
They are, but all the respect in the world to Affordable. I mean, it's a incredible.
They started here in Kinston, North
They
Carolina.
did,
Yeah.
And that's actually sort of, my dad got his start at Affordable early on with the Edwards, George Edwards. But anyway, so it's got to make sense, and it has to be profitable. But before we can even test it, you got to develop a system that's right for us, because the digital systems that are right for the traditional way of doing them, well, then I have to sort of.
Can you do digital same day?
I think you can, and that's the system I'm developing.
So you're going to go with the printed base?
Printed base.
Okay. So I think that's like a 2-hour print.
Well, I probably, you look at it as an economy denture.
Yeah.
And the problem with printing dentures right now, we don't have a mill, so you could do printed. They're not indicated for long-term use.
Right.
There's
But
not.
dentures aren't long-term anyway. They should be changed every 3 to 5 years, if you ask me.
Well, probably so. At least reline.
Yeah.
But you got to treat it initially as an economy denture. Give them something to put in their mouth.
Yeah.
This is not
Great
a
for immediates.
Correct. Great for immediates, and that's how it should be treated, especially the printed. The mills, the milled product are phenomenal.
I've seen some printed carbon bases.
The carbons are pretty, with that new Lucitone deal they got. It makes. Plus, I want those Adidas shoes that you can only get if you get the carbon. But
I saw some printed ones last week, and I was surprised.
Yeah.
They weren't as like plasticky as I thought.
David,
I
in
was
the past
very
couple of
surprised.
We printed
years,
some at our 3D printing class, so yeah.
Last weekend.
what printer were you using?
Sprint Ray.
I really am tempted to buy one. I still have the form.
Why not?
We have
Just
8 at the
well-
office. You want to come try one
I
out?
might come do it. I still utilize my tried and true form. Back then when I started 3D
Yeah.
printing was
I have a form
We have
if
one
you
of
want
those
it.
I know you, that's I still use that. That was really the only thing that was available. Was at
What
5.
about
Right.
how long
Yeah.
do the printed teeth last on these
No,
dentures?
they don't have any. That's the problem. Is they don't have any long-term
Couple
data.
3 years?
They won't say. They
don't know.
Now
It hasn't been around long
the
enough to-
Lucitone, the carbon ones, they're claiming long-term wear, but it's still hard to say. So you got to weigh all of that before you get rid of your wet lab, your analog and stuff with at least what we're doing, because it's economical.
Well, and then there's also the challenge of bringing in people on the lab side that are, your analog person is probably never gonna embrace.
You're
it.
a digital person.
They're not. And but then you also, and this is probably the same for you, but you have to look at some of these bigger pieces of technology as employees that you're investing in. Like getting a nice printer like a Carbon, maybe not a Carbon, maybe a Nexton or something, and treating that as your.
And they're going to change every few years.
And they will change.
I think that's why the Carbon model of leasing the printer
Yeah.
is interesting, but they're pretty expensive for the lab side of things.
I don't know if interesting is the right word. I don't know if it bothers me or I think it's a good idea. But damn, it's sexy. The Carbon, if you hadn't, I'd look into it. You probably won't buy it.
He'll have one next week.
Yeah.
He's looking it up right now.
Yeah, T-Bone would probably do that.
He
but-
said he's not getting left behind.
Well, well, I was against printing for a while.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And
We had a printer just sit there for at least 3 years.
And a lot of people do that. They get the printer and it just sits there.
all right, so we've talked enough about dentures.
Nah.
All right, let's talk about your implants.
So yeah, so again, back to dental school. I knew I wanted to do implants, bring them into that practice. I think everyone here who's been in dental school or is in dental school now, you realize you're not going to get taught implants. They don't want you to be comfortable with implants. So while
Well, I don't
they're
agree.
starting.
I don't agree with that statement a little bit.
I'd probably walk it back a little bit to
Yeah.
understand the now that where I've gotten the reservation of
It's not even that. I think they can barely get you guys ready to,
Correct.
to do fillings.
and that's what I would walk back my statement now where I am and say, well, there's no point in even giving the false.
Well, I would agree with you on some parts. Okay, I think the old school guard of dental instructors probably don't want you learning that stuff because they believe it's a specialist procedure. But I think as dental school, as they embrace technology and as the old farts kind of go away, or we have more progressive old farts still around, I think they want you to learn. But I think the truth is
there's not enough time.
there's just not enough.
And
time.
that's I was going to say I walk it back now because I mean through all the stuff I've done I realize the more I don't know.
Well, in implant dentistry, unlike any other aspect that I've experienced in dentistry, implant dentistry is vast. A single tooth implant and a full arch implant or a reconstructive implant, which is beyond full arch. You're talking about now cancer patients, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are massively, it's not implant dentistry. I mean, single tooth implant dentistry isn't, I mean, that's not, in my world, that's not implant dentistry. That's just everyday dentistry at some point, or every week dentistry.
But you're exactly right, but I realized that's what I wanted to do, and I sort of do I do a residency, oral surgery, peri, or pros?
Why didn't you?
I was ready to be done with school, man. Went straight in, and I was ready to go to practice, and I also
Looking back, you'd be like, "Damn, practice is work."
it is work.
I'll go back to school.
It's definitely work.
I'll go back to school on my dad's tab any day of the week.
Yeah, I talk to people in school. I'm like, man, sometimes I miss being a student. But so I decided I would try an alternative route. And just while I was still in school, I started doing a ton of CE. I need a fact check on this. I believe I was in your inaugural 3D dentist class back in 2013.
Right.
Dentureless?
No, it was just a safe start to implants.
Implants.
And I was still in school, and I was like, man, CE isn't all that bad. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we were doing fun stuff.
I was going to say, it was
We
finally
were.
something you were interested in.
And came, you had that wonderful setup you have at the office, and it had a name tag. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
So my name tag, everyone said doctor. Mine said punk bitch dental student. And it was just exciting. Had delicious food.
I was jealous, to be quite honest with you.
It was invigorating. And so I had that at my disposal. Also, I had the TDI, which was that's a good continuum. But to have those, especially really your course it broke it down a lot of stuff. Cause I've been reading Mish and stuff because I would come to you.
A little more complicated.
I came into your course spitting out all these Mish
terms.
facts.
D1, D2.
T-Van was just like, calm down, man. Just calm down for a little bit.
It'll all come there. Don't worry.
Yeah, it is like we'll come around to it. And so it started there. And in those first 2 years, I did all these continuums and ended up doing about 1,000 hours of pure implant CE in those first 2 years. And you're right. It's just you can't cover it all.
It's still learning.
I'm constantly learning.
I mean, now you got to learn how to deal with failed implants.
Correct.
Or failing
and
implants.
Really, the more I've learned, the more anxious I am about all the different cases.
I'm convinced I need to leave practice in like the next 3-4 years. Because there's going to be a glut of bad implants.
And, perio, I was talking to someone who's going into a perio program, and that's going to be a big part of their practice is salvaging all these. I hate to say it, like people go and do these weekend warrior courses and they go and start placing all these implants. I think that's going to be a problem. Hopefully I'll be wrong, but we shall see. I think digital has made it much more predictable, obviously.
Yeah.
And you got to give a huge shout out to some incredible labs that can identify potential problems down the road for you.
And working with good labs that are implant labs.
Yeah, shout out to Matt at Absolute.
Yeah,
Absolute.
Matt does a great job.
Holy cow, man. His knowledge is, I love just shooting it with him. He has so much.
And they've grown a lot in their implant division.
They have.
Because they didn't really have much of one.
Correct.
On the surgical side. Certainly on the prosthetic side. But then, like guided chrome and sequence, 360 imaging. And some of these places are really pushing us to think about things more patient-centric, at least.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And I think patient-centric style of practice that's big to me, at least patient education style.
Well, listen, it's why DSOs win. It's why DSO companies win. That's why Walmart, Target, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Starbucks, that's why they're winning. They figure out how to respond to what the consumer wants. Look, you go to every Chick-fil-A, I went to a line of Chick-fil-A's, no doubt there were 35 people in line and we were gone in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A, it's unbelievable.
Chick-fil-A should run the world.
In a sense, right? And same with Starbucks, now with mobile ordering, and Chipotle, dude, they're crushing it.
And that type, like Amazon, things like that, is all that type of consumer like catering to.
That's what you do.
What comes on to us is, and even for us,
that's what your practice is at the end of the day. Where else can I go get a denture in? Not even say 1 day. Where the hell can I get one in 2 days?
Yeah.
You can make anybody a denture if they give you 1 or 2 days at any level.
Yeah, and that's been the cool thing in bringing implants. So I did all that CE, I brought it into practice, and it really is merging two different styles of dentistry. As much as it makes sense, you're bringing implants into the denture practice. You really have two different practices. Because we're doing anywhere from a same-day economy denture to your top-of-the-line full-arch dental prosthetic. And that's, in the scheme of things, it's different. One's like a rush, and the other, it's going to take
long.
It's a lifetime.
And a lot.
That's a true long-term.
But it's also the process of getting to it. You got to understand the patient who's paying for this and paying for that. They probably still, a lot of them will have the same mindset that they think that they can get that fixed arch full hybrid in 2 days. It's managing expectations because they might have different economic means, but their expectations could be the exact same. That economy patient, they get a denture, they're upset that you tell them 10 times, this lower denture is going to flop around on you. Yeah. And they come like, this lower denture is not tight. It's like, well, we've told you 10 times. And
I had a patient the other day, I heard dentures suck. I go, nope, they don't. If they suck, they'd stay in your mouth.
So that's been a big part of my practice to try to ease my.
All right, so walk me through the process of. I don't want to disrespect your dad at all. Okay? Yeah. But he's older school, I assume, correct?
Older school, but it completely embraces.
Right, but in terms of the style of way he practices, the way he's doing dentures and all of that stuff, he's like you said earlier, he's he was
set in his ways.
He's happy. I wouldn't say he's set in his ways. Because
Definitely not set in his ways.
But he's like, this is my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm open. It's almost like Sully's dad.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's open. I'm open to you doing what you got to do.
Yes.
And I'll support you. Okay. But what is that? Was there a dynamic in the beginning? Like he's like, no, we don't want to do it this way.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
No, he's been as supportive. Like he was still using a analog pen when I got there, and I was coming, and he invested in the CBCT before I got there. And he's loved watching it. He gets as excited as anyone with all these things. Yeah. Now certain things when I bring them up to him, he's like, okay, well, makes sense. Like, so he
when you say I want a carbon printer.
He's like, okay,
because it comes with the shoes.
Because I want this. You don't tell him that part.
I don't know if he knows. The cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, he'll know now.
I'll never get those Adidas now. But he's embraced it as much as you can. He loves it. It excites him. Like because he's always encouraged people. Even before I got there, he encouraged people to go to the surgeon, like get some implants.
All right.
And so watching it's been extremely exciting for him.
So on the business side of things, certainly adding implants is going to increase revenue, but but there's probably an increase in overhead that he may not have liked in the beginning.
Huge, not just material costs for implants, your biologics.
Yeah. Plus team members.
Mm-hmm.
Team members. Technology is the big one.
Yeah.
The month to month, and that's not just dental implants. I mean, anything you're doing with, digital technology, you're getting hit with that monthly
fee. Yeah.
Monthly fee, and they keep adding up. Now then it's like, you need a new server to handle all this CBCT information.
Yeah.
Here's another 10,000. And that he had such a drastically low overhead, and I'm sure that was a tough pill to swallow, but he embraced it. But you're right, you get that increase in revenue, but on top of that, you have a large increase in overhead.
Let's say there's a Joc Jernigan listening to this podcast.
What's up, Joc?
And he doesn't have a dad or a practice to walk into. Would you still do what you're doing?
If someone paved the path for me and painted the picture, because again,
you're painting the picture,
right? Because for like you were talking about, like how could doing dentures be fun? How could it be profitable? How could it not be a job?
Well, I would argue, I know it's profitable if that's what you do. It's not profitable.
How could it not be a huge headache?
Well, that's that I don't believe.
Right. And that's sort of as we're now searching for an associate, getting them to understand that.
So when you bring an associate in, is that to replace your dad?
Part my dad and really replace a lot of me to
grow, to be able to do things you want to do.
Because right now I'm limited.
Talk to me about that. What does that mean?
I'm still doing a lot of and I love it, a lot of the traditional dentures, extractions and stuff, but it limits the number of implant surgeries.
So you're turning people away?
Not necessarily turning people away, but putting off scheduling.
But same thing. You're turning people away, dude. We live in a world.
Okay. Yeah.
Listen, we live in a world where somebody wants it tomorrow. If I'm paying you $20, I don't know what you guys charge, but let's say it's $20,000.
I don't want to wait 6 weeks.
My patients don't. My patients like, do I have to wait that long?
We'll come in tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
And so there's also on top of that we've talked about this before, weighing that. I've heard you talk about with an associate, like you don't wait necessarily to have the growth.
You get advanced, yeah.
And to really push ourselves with seeing how we can load that schedule.
I'll argue right now that without even knowing the details of what's going on, you're turning away business because your mind, there's a bandwidth. We all have a limited amount of bandwidth.
That's absolutely
your
true.
bandwidth is going to go down. Okay, because your dad's bandwidth today was different than when you got out of school, which was different when you went to school, which was different when you were in high school. Okay, our bandwidth goes down. It's because we get fat and happy, but okay, that's part of it.
We talked about that
not all literally, okay, but
and literally.
But our bandwidth goes down, and so what I'm seeing in my own office is I'm convinced that if I didn't do anything but implants, I would do more implants because that free time would allow me to focus on the things that bring the business
bring them in. Correct.
Yeah.
And
be more patient centric. Like, hey, we can start today.
Yeah, but keep your enthusiasm in that, like devoted toward that. And
I had to do like 4 fillings today.
Oh, man.
He was covering for our associate. He doesn't usually work on Fridays. Don't let him lie.
I'm thankful to
but
say.
I did the fillings.
I know. But that's because so he could take some CE.
Good work.
I thought when he said, can you cover for me, because he's taking a CE class, and I thought when he said, can you cover for me, I was just going to go in and check hygiene. And then
I was like, no, I think you're seeing like his restorative patients. So he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you should look at the schedule on Friday.
Man. Well, congrats, man. That's 4 more fillings than I've done since dental school.
So, okay, so let's talk about this for a second. If I, as a patient that walks into your practice, what can I get?
Like same day or just whatever.
What services
is
do
your
you
service
offer?
do you provide?
Surgery, extractions.
So if I need one tooth taken out because it hurts.
Yeah, we do a ton of that.
Okay, so you're not limited. So if I never intend to get a denture or a partial.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
no problem.
we receive a lot of emergency extractions, like
Yeah. All right, keep going.
so partials, dentures,
Okay, partials,
implant prosthetics.
Okay. Single tooth implant?
Some.
I'm missing tooth number 8.
I'm not going to do that.
I'm missing tooth number 30.
30 probably would do.
Okay.
The anterior implants, they require a little bit more finesse and time.
Yeah, they're the headaches.
And well, right, and
And
eventually
they want a tooth right then.
Well, there's
and then
and aesthetic. There's those factors, the patient factors, the long term. I think there's a good chance, unless you're like you should, build up the site like you should. But if you put in an implant, it might look nice now, but in 5 years,
we don't know.
Yeah, and that's a headache I don't want. But also, I think it deserves the proper attention, and you should charge more for an anterior implant. Yeah. It's just a different animal than the heathen full arch surgery, which I'm used to. And so I could place them, but I feel more comfortable sending to a periodontist. I think I'm doing the patient a better service that way, or a general dentist. Someone.
What if I need a filling on a tooth to do a partial?
We refer to general dentist.
So you literally have no composite bonding agent? I know you do for some of the stuff.
Right, I have composite to fill in access holes.
Right, yeah.
But, that's it.
So okay, I'm asking these questions very, very. I have a specific reason I'm asking. Okay?
Yeah.
Is another aspect that I want dentists to understand is, at some point you have to limit your menu.
You do.
And you have to learn to say no.
So do you have hygiene?
No, of course not. Why would you have anything like that?
So no one that supports the ADHA.
I mean, we may go, especially with our implant
With your
prosthetics,
implants,
we may
have
start bringing
follow-up.
someone on.
But that's what periodontists are for at the end of the day.
I think it's good to support the general dentist around. I mean, that's a revenue.
They refer to you.
And I hope so. And then you're referring them for, let's say 4 implants to clean around, 4 locator studs, and you get paid.
Yeah.
I think it's a good support, man. But it's also nice to be able to monitor it yourself and sort of control it.
Before somebody makes bad comments about your work.
Correct.
I'm dealing with that right now.
Because they don't understand what the patient was willing to do, what they were taught,
They don't
what they're willing to pay,
Pay.
what they're willing to do.
And what kind of medical condition they had.
Correct.
What the site looked
And
like.
that's
how hard they push you to do same day. And
Get it done.
Yeah.
And that's why
Doc, I know that there's a good chance of bone loss around this.
and you tell, and I had this written down. I want to talk about patient education and handling their expectation from the beginning especially these full arch cases is so critical. It's so easy to promise the world and overshadow. You see these red flags, but you go over them because you want to get that case.
Well, you want to do that. There's a level of, hey, I want to make the money. B, I want to do the case.
And 3, it's like this person's like a young. I really want to help them.
Yeah.
Let me extend myself to help them.
Yeah, and it always backfires.
It backfires. And those are the things. Me and you were talking about before this is, social media is wonderful. It's great to put these cases, but it also romanticizes a lot of these cases. A lot of the process makes it look easier than it is.
Well, I would argue it makes you feel horrible about yourself. I see
other people. You see other people's glory,
dude. I see
and you
those
never
Style
see
Italiano guys, the composites. I'm like, I don't. My crowns don't look that good. How are they doing? And so to me, what I see, okay, and because I have a younger practitioner associate right now, he's been out 4 or 5 years, so he's not that young, but nonetheless, there are times where they bring these things up. I'm like, dude, that doesn't work in my $120 filling PPO practice.
Yeah,
Right.
And so you have to balance it. And I know Sully, I don't know how much he'll love me talking about this, but one of the things he's dealing with is his associate has really listened to and learned about this biomimetic, and they're leaving decay behind, and because you know what I'm talking about.
A little bit. You're going to educate me because this is.
But so you're fighting that, but you also at the same time want to embrace
it. Yeah.
But at the same time you're like, well, God, I don't want to be left with this.
Yeah.
I don't want to clean this
Correct.
up.
They're explaining it to the patient, and then the patient goes and tells their friend or their mom,
"We're gonna leave."
Well, they told me they were going to leave some decay. What?
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. So
keep going.
what?
On the subject of social media, you've got a pretty good following.
I've enjoyed doing it. I sort of was going through. I was getting ready. I went to speak at the IDIA symposium in Hawaii earlier this year, and I was like, okay, I'm putting together a presentation. Got all these photos, and I started putting them up. I wanted to do it for several years. I just haven't. So I started posting them and gotten good feedback. I love doing it because it's also it's great. One, you're putting this stuff out there, and when you're sort of, it's not that I'm a solo practitioner. My dad doesn't really do this stuff, so it's mostly just me doing it. And you can get to a point where you forget the stuff you're doing. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's fun to do. And so it's fun to have this interaction with people and get your responses.
So you're part of the problem.
Well, it's that, but it's also I'm getting to meet I've met so many awesome people in a short time period.
You would have never met.
Not even to it's going to build a business acumen or anything. It's just cool to get to meet people. Christian. Yeah. I met him through it. Several other people, Akil Alexander, Todd Engel.
Yes. You know what I've always heard? I hope one day my name is in that, but
well, I already knew you.
I'm messing with you. But, I heard Peter Bolden and him and Craig Spodek have the Bulletproof podcast, and which is a great podcast. But I heard him when I met Craig and Peter at VOD a couple of 3 years back at the Voices of Dentistry in Phoenix. And he made this comment that we're in thin air, okay? And so one of the things I love is honestly, what percentage of your classmates even understand what challenges you're facing?
In my practice?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Zero. Maybe 1%, right?
Yeah.
And because you're in a thin air, right? You're in an area where very few people are dealing with, okay? Whether it's because it's that complicated or that fancy, or whether it's because most dentists don't choose to be in that arena, right? Or for someone like Craig, he's trying to build a Mayo Clinic, essentially, right?
Yeah.
For dentistry. And so when you're in that's, my problems and his problems are totally different. Or somebody that's trying to, like Brett, trying to build 5, 10, 15 practices, there's different challenges.
There's completely.
Right. And so to me, one of the things I've loved, for me, it started with Dental Town, but social media is it brings people that are facing unique problems or unique areas and allows you to interact with other people that understand, that don't. Like I'm friends with a friend here, a good friend, and he says, it's just nice that I can sit down and talk to somebody about our problems.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're not problems.
Yeah,
they're RPP, rich people problems, or they're first world problems, or, we're trying to, how to grow a $3 million business to a $4 million business. And most people they just don't get it, right? And so we've come to a society where, to a certain degree, success is made fun of, or success is
demonized.
And
that's just extremely unfortunate.
And so to me, that's one of the great things about social media is it allows you to, because they'll flock. We'll all flock to each other. Those that are there, those that want to be there. And so we'll get together. And to me, that's been the best part. That's how I met Samir.
Yeah.
Is because we were on the same path. We had same visionary stuff. He lived in California. I live in North Carolina. And so, it happens. That's how you've met Christian, and that's how I met Christian. And that's how it all happens.
And so you're blending both, like, building clinical but also business excellence. And that's a lot of what you can get from meeting these different people. And that's one of the things I loved about CE. Yeah. I mean,
the right CE.
The right, but I was blessed with doing in my opinion, some of the best. Your courses, I was, again, got to be you and Uday were one of the first people to do one of those all-on-4 courses, and I got to be part of that. And you meet incredible people who may be generations past you, Mark Bowman.
Mm-hmm. Mark's great, dude. He's 62 years old.
I love it. I went
having fun.
I know, and I went and visited him last fall in his office.
Another example, Greenville, North Carolina.
Hey.
Everybody coming out of school wants to live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm like, Raleigh or Chapel. I'm like, dude, go down to Greenville, go to Rocky Mountain.
Live in Raleigh.
Go to Benson. Yeah, live and drive,
dude. Man. There's a lot of good podcasts.
You only have to drive 3 days a week.
A lot of good podcasts to listen to when
you
you're
only
driving.
have to drive 3 days a week to make the money that you make on 5 days a week here.
So it's great to meet those people. It inspires you. It's just, I don't know. Again, I'll have to talk to Meredith. One of the things I want to talk about is staying motivated.
Yeah.
Because even for me, I mean, I might sound like a princess, but 5 years in, when you're doing the same, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing the same thing, it can get monotonous.
Yeah. So,
and you got to find a way to stay motivated and enthused and doing different CEs. And I'm entering that next part of my career where I'm ready to, again, it requires clinical time. That's why an associate would help. But doing things like sleep and things like that that I might want. But also reaching into
I would argue that
educating.
you shouldn't do that stuff, I think for me, like I have the challenge of staying motivated, right? So I need new and fresh. And on my career path has always showed me that every 5 years I need new and fresh.
Right.
And so what I would tell you is the first step is you got to surround you got to get a core group of people that are just like you. And you need to be the dumbest person in the room.
Yep.
And you need a core group of people, and you need to get motivated by it. And then for me, what motivates me right now is I've got a number that I want to do, and my goal is every year to do it in less days, okay, or to be able to cut procedures.
Yep, and you've said that for years.
And so for you, the goal is, because you're you're married?
No.
At some point you might be, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But there's going to become a point in your life where the bandwidth goes down. And you're going to you can't run at the pace you're running at. And so to me, what I would challenge you with is how many days are you going to work in 2000, if 2020 was normal?
In 2020?
Yeah, if you were normal, what do you work? 4 days a
Clinically,
week?
4 days, and Friday I'm either planning cases.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're in the office 5 days a week.
Or I work from home.
Okay,
to plan the cases.
Oh, you're 4 days a week. How much time do you take off?
That's the other thing is we still only take 1 week 1 week off a year.
Right. So you're working 50, let's call it 50 weeks a year.
50 weeks a year.
So you're working 200 days. So my next challenge to you would be, how can Joc Jernigan do what he's doing now in 190 days in 2021? And go ahead and pre-schedule those 10 days off to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And because, and how do you get to where you're not working Mondays?
That sounds wonderful. I've talked about, really.
So then, it starts with one Monday a month.
But
so
even not necessarily not working, just doing
not being in the office.
Correct.
Yeah. I work 24/7.
Yeah. So change. That's what
the backbreaking part is the patient care.
Correct.
Dude, you let me use my brain, I'll work 24/7.
Yes, I can, and I love that. But and the patient care is great for all the reasons you mentioned, but also it's exhausting. It's
draining.
Monotonous.
It's draining. Emotionally, it can drain you. Like I said, when you're dealing with the human psyche.
I want everybody to get to 3 days a week.
I think isn't there research that shows at least
people are happier if they work,
and they're more productive.
As productive.
As a 5 day.
Well, my argument to you is that, so my challenge to you is I would love to see you take one Monday off every month next year.
We're going to check in.
No, but to me it's easy, Joc, by the way, because all it takes is you going in and scheduling it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I promise you, your numbers won't go down.
I would agree with you on that.
Okay, so make that commitment that when you leave here, that you're going to go ahead and schedule a Monday off starting in September. Well, I don't know how far you guys are booked out, but whenever you're not booked out, Monday off, once a month. Not every. I'm not even saying every week, okay? Because your business may not support that. Okay, in terms of your dad may not support that, right?
Yeah,
because when you got partners, whether he's dad or not dad, you can't just leave him hanging, right?
That is true.
But don't fall into some of the same traps that maybe he fell into.
No, okay? Yeah,
because we're a different generation.
Different generation, maybe different personalities, but yeah, he always grinded but he recognizes
they don't know any better. My dad's like that. He's 70-something years old. Still doing it.
Pops will even recognize, we need to find a way to do this 2 weeks a year, but it has to make sense,
it'll make sense.
Correct.
You won't notice. I'm no offense. You won't notice the difference. It's RPP.
Yeah.
It's rich people problems.
Well, while we're speaking of that and we're talking about social media, I want to make sure that everybody joins our Facebook group.
Yeah, dental business and clinical excellence. And you're talking about that a little bit. But my wife, by the way, what did my wife say yesterday? I'm freaking out.
You're the
already.
problem. She's like looking at you. She's like, you're the problem.
So in October, because we're already slow in October because our hygiene is down and we'll pick it back up. But my wife has already told our team, some of our team members, that I will be working 1 day a week in October, Wednesdays.
Wow. That sounds wonderful.
Well, it doesn't sound wonderful to me.
He's only going to be seeing patients on Wednesday.
It doesn't sound wonderful to me. The control freak side of me is like, what the place is going to fall apart?
Yeah, well, but I have that because I do that then when I try. Another big thing I learned from you is really like the implant coordinator has been huge for us. Having someone devoted to managing.
You got to massage these patients.
You do, and
they're not your economy.
Correct.
They
are not. They want
Mm-hmm.
and it's a full-time job for her, but it's been a huge part of that.
The lab work, the follow-up,
everything,
the
steps,
consults,
and listening to them just bitch.
And it's more time. It's more time on the front end. It's the consult, the buying, the buying cycle for that is, in our office, what we're seeing, our average case is a 6-month buy. In other words, from the time they come in for a consult, from the time they actually say yes, not even play. I'm just talking about saying
scheduled,
yes.
Yeah,
it's a 4 to 6 month process.
And for us, it's probably even longer when you're talking. We're in a lower SES area.
What does SES mean?
Socioeconomic status. I mean,
okay,
for sure.
Pretty poor area.
Yeah.
And when I came out, everyone's like, "Yeah, the lower denture wearer is the easiest person to sell on implants." It's like, "Oh man, that's gonna be." But
do you do any mini implants?
I do. I look at it as this. Going back to the patient education side of one, obviously, I think clinical education's huge. Like if you're gonna do implants, be educated. But I think it's huge also patient education.
Right.
We have all these tools at our disposal to provide a restoration that's going to make their life better. Right. And in my opinion, unless it's just got a drastic failure rate, I'm going to use it, try to cater to anyone from, let's call it an economy implant denture, to your full arch fixed hybrid. Okay. Especially where I am, a lot of people can't afford that. And I'd still like to extend to them the benefit of being able to eat and function. And a mini implant can do that.
What's the average income in your area, you think?
I don't know.
40,000?
Maybe. That might be high. So I look at the mini implant as, there are headaches with it.
Sure.
Especially in the maxillary arch. More failures. But can you accomplish getting that person a snap-on denture that allows them to eat a hell of a lot better and function?
Well, it's a phenomenal service for the lower arch.
Yeah. And the upper, I treat the same way as I educate them. They sign a separate consent, and I'm, again, back to it, Ask Doc Joc, that cheesy name, that came from years ago. I just in these consults, I'm spending all this time trying to convey this information about every option because I want them to know the benefits and the limitations of each option because they all have both. They all have benefits and they all have limitations. And so I made a bunch of YouTube videos on the implant process, all the different full arch treatment options, and we send them to the patient, let them sort of educate themselves where it's not a high stress situation.
Is that before they come in?
We try to get them to do that, and it makes their consult. We do free initial consults, and that makes them much more valuable because the patient knows what to ask at that point, the specific questions. But back to the minis is you explain to them the limitations. Like, so you just want a denture that snaps in and out and you can eat? This is going to be great for you. If you ever think you might want a different restoration, if you have more money down the road, you want to
upgrade.
You can upgrade. You can't do that with a mini. You're going to be married to a snap-on denture.
You can pop it out.
You can pop. You're going to be married to something that comes in and out.
No, I'm saying you can unscrew
we can pull the, but they're that no one likes the sound of that.
Yeah.
And 3, you're more likely to have a failure.
A lot of the mini implants I've seen out of South Dakota just fall out on their own.
Yes, and that's the other thing.
Well, it's an inside joke a little bit.
Well, is that okay? I think anyway. But there's people doing cavalier things with it, and I know what you're talking about. I won't educate the patient. Say, look, especially in the upper arch, I'd really recommend a fatter implant. Yeah. Otherwise, you're much more apt either now.
But the mini implants aren't that much less.
Well,
in cost for us.
I disagree completely. It depends on where you're putting your. Even my standard implants, I've tried to bring the cost.
No, I'm talking
down.
about the cost of the
material.
Mini implants, what, $75?
I use what I've transitioned to from the traditional mini is the Zest Lodi.
Okay.
Because it gives me a lot more.
It has a locator built into it.
It has it's a two-part system. Whereas the traditional mini is
I've seen it. Yeah,
you have your traditional mini. You have the standard O-ball. Then you have your collared for thicker tissue, and that's just a nightmare in dealing if you have to do alveo and the tissue creeps over. This Lodi one, you can have different abutment heights anywhere from 2.5 to 6, so that's great for managing. It's
like a two-piece implant.
Two-piece implant,
just thinner.
But now they have a 3.4 millimeter. Implant for the maxillary, which is great. I mean, it addresses some of those issues, but you still can't change the abutment connection. So you still have that limitation, but you have a lot more versatility in the retention versus a traditional mini. And, I mean, it's a phenomenal service. I put 4 Lodi implants in. I get the same benefits as I put 4 standard with a locator. I think it's a great service to offer people.
That's awesome.
As long as you educate them again, more than likely in one ear out the other, but you've done your due diligence and you're still offering a great service.
Well, there's something you just talked about that I want every practice to do, and this includes our practice, okay, is the sales process. Okay, the sales process starts, if you want to close more cases, you need to educate your patients
Absolutely.
more, okay? And that doesn't have to be, I think the worst consultation is one where you're trying to educate everything, right? So instead...
And that's what I wanted to talk to you, because I hadn't really gotten to sit down to you and talk about our different styles, because I know you've always said, don't over-educate. You can freak the patients out. It can overwhelm them. And again, one of the reasons I made the video is to let them be at home in it. And
what I want to say, hang tight before we get is the videos are so important. Remember, I keep trying to get our team members to make the videos. Like, what are the common questions or what are the common things you go over in a consult?
Right.
Just
put
answer
them
those
out
in a video and call it a day. You know.
Yeah.
So keep going.
But like, let's say someone comes in full arch plan. What's your menu? What do you?
So what do you mean by that menu? What am I? In our office, we only have a fixed hybrid. That's it.
Okay, so for me, it's the whole gambit.
Yeah. So the way I would approach it in your case, I'd be like, Joc, listen, depending on your budget and what you got going on clinically, so I would do a clinical evaluation, look at how much bone there is in the cone beam, and I said, listen, Joc, we typically have about 4 different choices, anywhere from a Yugo to a Lincoln or Cadillac, okay? Because that probably makes sense in your population, right? So I'd say, unfortunately, given your condition, a Yugo and a Buick don't work, okay? And so I would kind of pare it down to them, and I tried to limit it down to 2 choices for patients.
And I figured that's where we would differ, because I'm like, I describe it the same way. We have, I might call it a Kia. To a Cadillac, which is your hybrid. And I say we can do the mini, anywhere from the mini, standard snap-on. I don't really do bar over dentures. I think they're unnecessary. I do offer the...
We don't even do over dentures.
Right. And I offer the conus as you sell it as the perfect in-between.
Right.
The functions as a fix, but you can remove it.
A lot of choices.
Because I think there's a ton to be said for long-term health and hygiene for a removable patient versus a fixed. But
that's a lot of choices.
It is. But
it's working for you.
It is, but it can also, again, it could overwhelm people. And I'm always, but I want to weigh what's real.
I want you. Have you listened to homily stuff?
I have. I mean, years ago.
So I think a lot of it, you got to find out where the patient's at, right?
So
when I say boil it down to 2 choices, I'm doing some listening before that. I'm doing some fit issues. I'm finding out what Joc's interested in. I'm asking questions like, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you hope for? Tell me what's going on in your life.
Correct.
And so I'm trying to get them in. I'm trying to fit them in a category and then give them a couple of choices. They may be this or this, based on the clinical conditions or their personal conditions, but I'm not giving everybody all 5 choices off the bat.
That's what we started to do with our pre-consult questionnaire, things like that. That Tanya, our implant coordinator, she's going in. 1, we know their budget,
right?
And 2, we know their desires, and you have to find a way. Sometimes the expectations. Sometimes they do mesh. Sometimes they're like this. I mean, and you try to weigh it. Then we offer them somewhere in that ballpark. 2 to 3 options, but they know about all the options is my goal to help me sleep at night.
Well, I think, look, you're doing it unbelievably well, okay? Don't change a lot, okay? But I would tell you that an area that I think you need to grow on and be more open about is I think you need to get rid of some of your options. Okay.
Maybe. And I figured that's why I wanted to talk to you.
I would cut down. How about this? I would probably have 3 choices And then when the patient doesn't say yes to any of those, I might have something in my back pocket.
That's what the CONUS is, really.
Yeah, that I would come to.
The CONUS is a back pocket. I mean, we really have it's really honest. We have
my argument to you is just do the fixed hybrid for the CONUS cost, because it's not,
basically the same.
My fixed cost, I've done one CONUS and it cost me more than
it
fixed.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there's, again, the advantages in remove, but
sure,
the
when
process,
you're forced to.
The process in getting there, the lab steps,
it's way more expensive.
It's expensive. It's a cool option, but there's certainly downfalls to it.
All right,
but
here's what I want to do, Joc. I want to bring you back.
Yeah, man.
Round 2.
No, but I want to be very specific in round 2. And I want you to help make this happen for me, Meredith.
Okay.
I want us to walk through those choices that you have, because I think a lot of people want to have these. They want to have these 5 choices. They want to know. They want to. I want to get more clinical. Right now, we've talked philosophy. Who you are, all that stuff. I want to get to some clinical talk where we talk about. I'm walking in. I'm a dentalist. Joc, walk me through your consult process. Walk me through your choices. Why do you choose this? Why do you do this? Why do you have this? What are the rough costs? And I know costs are going to vary from place to place. Market to market. I'd like us to spend 45 minutes or so walking through that.
I think, again, I'm all about having the tools in the tool belt. Whether or not you use them, you have them, and it could be, even if you're not offering it consistently, you could be in a tough situation where a patient wants fixed hybrid, but it's like a 34-year-old girl and she's dying to have it, but she isn't going to get sinus augmentation to get your AP spread, and her lip almost touches the underside of her nose, and you can't do enough alvea because then you're reaching. So you're like, as much as you want to give it to this person, it's not a good option. Yeah. And one, you got to be able to recognize these and not overpromise.
Or the gummy smile.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah, the gummy, where you just can't do enough alveo and still have implants there. And as y'all taught us this from the get-go, and that, like, the first thing you teach, that's the first thing you notice is that. But yeah, clinically, you got to know what to look for and where everything applies.
How do people get in touch with you, Joc?
Feel free to hit me up on Ask Doc Joc on Instagram.
That's JOC, not JOCK.
Don't insult me. God. Yeah, so Ask Doc Joc, JOC on Instagram. If anyone wants to use those YouTube videos for their patients to educate them, same thing, Ask Doc Joc on YouTube.
Do you even know what Facebook is?
I go on there and then I get off. It just depresses me, to be quite honest.
The groups do.
I hate it. It makes me so mad. We deal with enough shit in the day-to-day. I hate to see people just crap on each other.
It's the new dental town. I love it though, man.
Certain people love it.
Well, I love a little bit of the shit show. Okay,
everybody
loves a train wreck. Okay,
yeah.
But also I keep coming back to this. You find your people. Okay.
Well,
and I find that Facebook is more serious.
It probably is in the discussion.
Yeah.
Instagram, there's not a ton of discussion.
Instagram is all about how cool is your picture and bullshit like that.
Yeah, baby.
And I don't give 2 shits about that.
Nah. You're right about there is more discussion, but some of that's shitty discussion. Yeah. I mean, I love Instagram's brought a ton of young people asking me, how did you get here? And I'm able to tell them, and I have, like, about your courses. Good CE courses.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's a great avenue for them to understand that. It can over romanticize things, but it can.
Joc, you should come mentor with us on our implant and extraction program.
I would love to.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
That's where I really want to take the next phase of my career.
It'll be, the beauty of it is there's some Thursdays, so you'll have to take days off work.
Hey, as long as
and we're right down the street.
As long as there's a good reason. But yeah, I'm excited. I found I love teaching people. I love just talking shop and not really necessarily opinionated, but expressing what I found and then weighing it against what other people have found.
Awesome. Joc, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you you've been a huge part of.
Thank you
really,
so much.
You sort of started my career back in 2013, and we sort of maintained.
Yeah, and I love it when people pass me. It's awesome. It's the best, by the way. I love it.
Maybe one day, but I'm not there. But you've done incredible stuff. It's been fun to watch myself grow, but watch you and 3D Dentist grow. That's been awesome because y'all have really grown, and it's been cool to see.
Thank you.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right, everybody. Let's have a great week, and we will see you next week on the T-Bone Speaks podcast.
Thanks so much for listening to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal. Remember to keep striving for excellence, and we'll catch you on the next episode.